PR Connections Radio presents.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Professionals Podcast. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am your host. And the Professionals is an organization that is all about bringing the best out in you, your potential to become the ultimate professional. And I am thrilled to have the opportunity to interview people who are really out there practicing professionalism at a high level. And I have a woman today who certainly exemplifies what professionalism is all about in a sector that many of you may not be very familiar with. She is in the holistic world that I think is so interesting and fulfilling. And I want to learn more about holistic professionalism from Ray Everlasting, or Grandmother Ray. Welcome to the Professionals Podcast, Ray.
Thank you, Guy. I'm so honored to be here.
So I had mentioned to the audience that you are someone who thrives in the holistic community. Would you share for the audience what is the holistic community?
For me, holistic is about treating the person as a whole being. One of the things that I've seen through the decades is that we tend to treat people according to a box that we can check, a little check mark. Oh, that's what. And we ignore the rest of the person. So for me, holistic is all about the whole person: mind, emotion, body, energy, spirituality, all of it. Because we're not just a physical being, we're not just an emotional being, we're not just an energetic being, we're all of it together. And so for me, that's what holistic is all about. And I know you and I have talked, as have some other members of our Holistic Toastmasters group, about that concept of bringing holistic into the workplace, into professional life.
Yes, Ray, I know a lot of people, they may know a little bit about the holistic lifestyle. Maybe they have done Tai Chi, maybe they've done yoga, maybe they are someone who eats naturally. But I don't think a lot of people would necessarily connect the holistic lifestyle with business. And there was something that you and I definitely are kindred spirits in that way. Could you share what your thoughts are in terms of the connection between the holistic world and the business or professional world?
My vision of marrying a holistic lifestyle with professionalism, with business, I've actually been doing this for a few years now, about 20. But what it is when I am practicing my holistic lifestyle at home, when I'm meditating, when I'm doing my Tai Chi or my yoga or my Qigong, when I'm having those moments where I am very aware of my whole being, who made some rule that once I'm finished with that part of me is done, and now I'm going to go put on a different hat, and I'm going to be this professional, and I'm going to leave all that behind. I think we've done that, or at least I've seen that in my experience being in corporate for years, that I did my yoga, I did my meditation, and then I put on my business hat, and I went to my corporate job, and I did my work, and I left that holistic part of it out. And I always felt like something was missing when I was at work. It's like, why can't I be as calm and centered and grounded and feel as empowered as when I was doing my meditation and my yoga and my Tai Chi? What changed? And the change was that I set that down and left it at home in my little yoga room. And then I put on my work suit and I went to work. And so for me, allowing myself, once I realized I was doing that, then I started making the choice to bring that with me. And so, for instance, when I started working as a small business consultant, I started seeing everyone that I was working with from that viewpoint of a whole person, and started working with them from the standpoint of, what does success look like for you? What happens in your day that makes you feel like you had a really good day, or you were fulfilled? Because that's part of our complexity as human beings. It looks different for each person. But until we're asked that question, it's just, do we even think about it? Other than, are we making a profit? Do we ever think of what it is going to take for us to feel successful? Do we ever think about what it's going to take for us to feel fulfilled in what we're doing? And so for me, marrying that holistic moment of my day and carrying that through to my business part of my day absolutely made me feel as though I was accomplishing so much more and being true to who I am. I hope that answered your question.
Oh, absolutely. I love where you talked about how you were abandoning the thing that was centering you, which would waking up in the morning and doing meditation and being in a really good space. And then, of course, you get sometimes wrapped up in the hustle and bustle of the things that you have to take care of when you're in business. And you completely sometimes can forget the good space that you were already in, which is designed to keep you serene in all conditions in life. And then the fact that you started to embrace that you wanted to go back and tap into that centeredness that you were experiencing, because I would imagine that helps you a lot when you start to deal with people and all the different things that you experience over the course of a day. That centeredness, tapping into that, really helps you probably in a lot of your relationships, I would imagine.
Absolutely. And from my own experience, it not only benefited me, but it benefited the people that I was working with as well. And so an example of that would be if I were working with you and we were putting together a plan to have you feel more empowered in what you were doing, more successful in what you were doing. And I'm looking at, how often do you take time during the day to come back to your center? When you're interacting with other people, are you listening to them or are you hearing them? Because there's a difference. Do you feel like you're being heard when you're speaking? And if you're not feeling that, then what's going on emotionally, mentally? So there's all these components that we can incorporate when we're working with other people, especially with other people, so that we're carrying that whole person view in, and we're recognizing each other as whole people and addressing that. And for me personally, it helps me to not take things personally. When I'm working with someone and they're very edgy in their response or very sharp in their response, one of the benefits that I've seen for myself and people that I've worked with over the years is when I'm in that holistic space in myself and I'm carrying that through my day, then when someone's very sharp with me, I don't take it personally because I'm centered and I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm still in that space that I created in the morning when I meditated and I found my truth, who I am. And so their opinion of me does not affect who I believe I am. And so I don't have that immediate response of, oh, I need to ramp up the defenses because you're being very sharp with me. I can just allow you to be sharp, and maybe you're going through something. And maybe that's just who you are, but it doesn't change who I am. And that allows me to stay in my space that I've created holistically for myself. And what I've seen over the years is that as I maintain that when I'm working with someone, their armor comes down a little bit. And they're much more calm and much more at peace when we're interacting, because I'm not being triggered by that.
Right. How our beingness, the way that we are showing up, can really affect other people. It rubs off on them. I've had many times when I've gone into meetings, Ray, where I was in not the centered state. And one of the things that I've noticed is that the outcome of that meeting was definitely affected by the fact that I was not in the state of being centered. Maybe I was on edge. Maybe I wasn't being present the way that you talked about a minute ago. I was thinking about something that had happened maybe earlier in the day, or I was thinking about what might happen later in the day. And I could tell that the result of that meeting was directly affected by my beingness. And that and like you had mentioned before, the other person may come, of course, with their state of beingness, but my focus on what I bring can sometimes definitely rearrange the energy of the other person. The way you are definitely can rub off on another person for sure.
Exactly. And so then it's a matter of, what is my choice in this moment? And I'm glad you brought that up about, you might be thinking about something that happened just before this meeting, or something that, I've got to be done on time because I've got this coming up. And that is a real thing for us, especially as human beings. We tend to kind of flow very rapidly back and forth between, I'm in this present moment, to, oh my gosh, I've got to remember to pick up groceries on the way home so I don't get in trouble with my spouse. Not that that's ever happened, but that's one of those things that we as human beings, especially when we're very busy and very active, it's this dance of being present and flowing back and forth between what just happened. And then, especially if you're working with someone, the two of you are thinking about, what did we finish up last time? Where are we at? Where do we need to get started? Where do we want to go? So it's moments like those that, when we allow ourselves to be holistic all of the time, then it's very easy for us to develop a habit of, I am not in this present moment, and I really want to be present because I want to hear what Guy has to say. And I want to be able to respond to what Guy's saying from this moment and really hear what he's saying. Not listen in order to respond, but hear what he's saying and take it in. And so how do I do that when I'm in my holistic time in the morning? Well, I take a breath and I remind myself where I'm choosing to be. Right here, right now. And it's amazing how powerful our breath is, because we can do just a nice breath and we can set that intention in our morning time or our evening time. I have a lot of people that I've worked with and that I know that morning time is not their time. They're not morning people. I am not going to yoga in the morning. Don't even ask me. And that's fine. If it works better for you at night, then do it at night. So whenever your time is that you've created that space, you develop these habits of, I know how very quickly to bring myself back to the present moment. I just take a breath. And where do I choose to be? Right here, right now. And so for me, that's one of the easiest ways that we can begin to incorporate that holistic part of our being into our professional life.
Yes, it's the small things like that that can make such a big difference, Ray. And another thing that you and I talked about in one of our first conversations together, that relates a lot to professionalism, and it was about how both parties in a professional or business transaction can win. And I know there are so many perceptions out there, and you'll hear it in business, right? Where people say there has to be a winner, there has to be a loser in transactions, and that when it comes to the holistic approach to life, the holistic approach to life is about oneness. It's about us being connected. When you have that type of a mentality and you're going into negotiations or things related to business, and if you could think about, if maybe from a different perspective, if we're one, then that means what works for you works for me, because we are coming from a place of oneness rather than separation. Would you like to speak to that? Because there's so much value in that in the professional world. And I think a lot of people would like to understand what I just shared more. Maybe they don't necessarily subscribe to this thought that there always has to be a winner and a loser. Could you speak to that?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, because we did have a lot of fun talking about that. From a holistic standpoint, we are all connected. And when I start to not just buy in or believe, but actually start to live that, then it shifts, or it did for me anyway. It shifted everything, because when I first started out in the business world, I still ascribed to the point of view that it's a competition. It's all competition. And I've got to get, the early bird gets the worm, and, you snooze, you lose, all of that. And it just felt so foreign to me. It didn't feel right. And so when I started moving the holistic part of my life into the business, what I realized is, when you win, I win. And if I can help you to win, then I've won. And that's a law of nature, actually. It's a vibrational, everything at its core is energy. And I know you've heard me say this before. So for everybody else out there listening, you'll get used to hearing me say this. Everything at its base is energy. And so when I am amplifying the energy of your success, I receive success because I'm in that space of energetically putting out there successful energy. And like energy attracts like. And there's a lot of names for it out there that we'll let them have their names for it. But for me, it's a basic law of nature. And so as we choose, and I've actually been seeing more and more companies do this, I've been very encouraged by it the last few years. When we see each other as collaborators rather than competition, then we all win. And not only that, but the people that we serve win. Because I'm a holistic practitioner by trade. I mean, that's what I do for a living. And so for me, I don't see my fellow practitioners as competition. I see them as assets, because I'm not here to provide holistic healing for every single person. But they might have a tool or a modality or something that will benefit this person that came to me. And so whether it's in the business world or whether it's in holistic practice, as we shift our mindset to see one another as companions and collaborators, then we expand the possibility for each of us, and we expand the possibilities for those that we're serving.
Yes, so well said, Ray. And what you're describing is really the mindset of abundance. And a lot of people might
Absolutely.
think that the competitive approach to business is the abundant approach because you're all about I'm going to get more for me. But in reality, when competition is your focus, that's actually a scarcity mindset because you're looking at it
Exactly.
from the point of view of there's only so many customers, there's only so many business deals out there, which is absolutely not true. We live in an abundant world where there is a
Right.
never ending amount of possibilities in business. There's more than enough for every single business person that ever existed in this world to have all the deals that they could handle in their lifetimes.
Right.
And I think your approach to it or the holistic approach to that, rather than thinking that there's only a certain amount of business deals out there and I have to get my share, which means that I have to kick someone else down because it's competitive and I have to beat you in order to get deals, is absolutely not true when it comes to professionalism or business. There's more than enough business deals for everyone out there.
And I would like to add to that, because that's excellent, excellent points. What I would like to add is going back to energy. When I'm operating out of that mindset of competition, it's actually, along with scarcity, it's a fear vibration. And so what happens when you're vibrating fear? Then you get more, because the one thing that I have come to understand about the law of vibrational energy and how that law of nature works is, if I'm putting out there that I am afraid that I have to compete and I may not survive, then what happens is physiologically my brain and my body go to work to prove me right. So it's not just that we're attracting the same, resonant energies. It's also that our mind and our body believes what we tell it. And I spent 2 years working with a brain research group, and this I found completely fascinating and totally believable, because I had seen it happen in my own world, where whatever I tell my body and my brain, then my brain goes to work and finds proof that I'm right, because it wants to make sure that I know that what I've told it is true. So it's going to look for supporting evidence. So what that means is, if I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to get enough business because of all this competition, then everything that I do is only going to see that I have not enough business because of all the competition. Even though somebody may be walking in and offering me this big opportunity, I'm going to find a reason to not see it, to not perceive it, and to not go after it, because of that mindset that I've created. And
Right.
that's the beautiful thing, is I've created it, and that means I can create something new.
Your competitors are really your teachers. The people who you would call your competitors, if you could just take a different way of looking at it, they are actually some of the greatest teachers that you can have in terms of business. And again, there is just so many misconceptions. One thing I want to talk to you about, though, Ray, is that PR Connections Radio is partnering with you to develop a new podcast. Will you share with the audience what your podcast is going to be about? I think we got a taste of it today. And what are some of the elements that we're going to be able to enjoy when we tune into your show?
So one of the things that I would like to, or I plan to offer through the Grandmother Ray podcast, which I love, I put my tagline is "The Grandmother is in." I am a grandmother, pipe carrier of the Bird clan by lineage, so it's very fitting. And what I am going to be sharing on that podcast is tools. I love to equip people with big tool belts. So that when I'm out there and I'm in that meeting and I slip back into the old patterning, the old belief system of competition, of scarcity mentality, of victim mentality, whatever it is that's going on, I have these tools now, and I have this awareness now that there is another way that feels right to my whole being. And so that's what I plan to share on the podcast, is just tools, techniques, experiences. And I really look forward to hearing back from people as, as we go through this journey together, so that they can ask questions about, well, this has been my experience, and how would you go about creating a more holistic experience in that moment. And so that's what I plan to share with the podcast, is how to gift yourself the experience of a holistic life, not just a holistic moment in your life, but the entirety of your life to be holistic.
That is so inspiring, Ray, and we're really looking forward to hearing more about this, the holistic business practices, as well as better health, better relationships that I'm sure you're going to be sharing with the show. I do have one more question for you, specifically related to professionalism, and that is, if you could offer advice to someone about how to become the ultimate professional, what would that advice be?
Oh, that's an easy one, actually. Go inside here and discover what it is that makes you feel like an absolute professional, that makes you feel good, that makes you feel whole. When I was making lots and lots of money, but I was doing work that made me feel hollow, it wasn't worth it. It didn't feel good. And that's what I hear from a lot of people that are out there in the professional world is, I have this job, I'm making good money, I don't feel good about it. So that's the first thing I would say, is get in touch with your heart space. Really go in there and dive in, and what would make me feel really good about what I'm doing? Is it that the job itself is great, but I have a distorted viewpoint about it? Does that need to shift? Or is it that I'm not feeling fulfilled and satisfied by that job? And if so, why not? What do I feel is lacking? So that's what I would say in response to that question, is we are each unique beings. And I have yet to come across two people that share exactly the same concept of what that is. And so that requires us going inside and asking those questions.
Yes, the way you feel about the profession that you're in makes all the difference in the world in terms of your productivity and your life, because what we do in our professions take up a lot of our lives. Why wouldn't you want to be as happy as possible in something that's taking up 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, however many hours you're practicing your profession every day? It's a significant piece of your life, and your happiness and your fulfillment in that. It's important that you experience that you are happy and that you are fulfilled. And the alternative is not experiencing it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the world that aren't fulfilled. And
Right.
part of this professionals platform, Ray, is we want you to become the ultimate professional, which means that you perform at a high level in whatever it is that you do. Certainly, that's a fulfilling aspect of life, but it's also fulfillment in terms of how you feel about your profession, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about the relationships that you experience within your profession. All of that, your overall life happiness is tied to your profession. so many ways. And that's, again, why you and I are kindred spirits. And I knew when we had our very first conversation related to this, that we were going to be able to do some significant things together, because you get it.
Yeah.
I know that you get it. And I'm so looking forward to sharing your podcast on our network. We're going to help a lot of people together.
Yes, I'm really grateful to have this platform to do just that.
And for those people out there who might want to learn more about the holistic services that you provide, will you share how they can get in contact with you?
Absolutely. I have a website, everlasting-ray, R-A-E, at /yolasite.com. But if you go on to Google or whatever browser you use, search engine you use, and you type in Ray Everlasting, my name's a little unique, and it should pop right up for you. I'm also
Yes,
on
please.
Instagram and on Facebook as well.
Please connect with Ray Everlasting for more connections with the holistic lifestyle. And we're looking forward, again, to the Grandmother Ray Show coming at prconnectionsradio.com. The Professionals platform is expanding. You can go over to Facebook groups /professionals, as you can see in the banner at the top, to become a member of this group. We've got a website that we're going to begin to develop soon called the professionalslead.com. It all ties into this platform of the steps that you can take on so many levels to become the professional that you've always wanted to be. This podcast supports that. For those of you over on YouTube, will you please subscribe to our channel, PR Connections? Will you also like these podcasts? And again, we're looking forward to continuing to provide great information, excellent guests such as Ray Everlasting, to help you to become the professional that you've always wanted to become. And you have any parting words for our audience, Ray?
Be well, be happy.
Yes, straight and to the point and simple and sage advice. Thank you again so much for stopping by, Ray.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Guy.
And we will see you all soon on the next Professionals podcast. Take care of yourselves.